Welcome to the Your Life Rocks podcast, where we believe life balance is possible for working moms. Yes, even for you. I'm your host, fellow working mom, Jenny Stemmerman. Each week, I'll bring you practical, real-life tips to help you focus on the things that matter most in life and to help you be the best version of yourself in every area that God has called you to. Ready to build a life that rocks? Let's go. Hello there. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here to hang out with me today. It is the new year. We all have new goals, and today we are going to be talking all about how you can spend a couple hours on the weekend doing your weekend prep for the week ahead and use that to set you up for success in reaching those new goals that you set for yourself for the new year. If this is the first time that you are tuning in, welcome. This is the podcast for working Christian moms, where you're going to find a lot of practical advice, and today is no different from that. So I know a lot of you like to grab your notebook and really dive into the content that we are going to be sharing and walking through together, and that's exactly what I want you to be doing. And if you're listening to this while you're driving or you're cleaning the house or you're doing whatever else, that's totally fine too, because you're still going to get great value from the things that we're going to share, and I'm going to tell you where you can find some free resources to help you walk through everything that we're going to be talking about. Now, originally I recorded this training a couple days ago while I was doing a Facebook Live in our membership community. And I was walking our members through this exact content, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to record this and make it into a podcast episode. Because it's such valuable information, I feel like I want to share it with everybody. And so I did. I did the Facebook Live in our membership community, and I hit record on the podcast so I could be recording the audio, and it all worked out just great. And then I went in afterwards to start editing the audio to make it actually into the podcast. I won't bore you with all of the technical of what goes into making it into a podcast. But anyway, I had stepped away from my computer to go and help my son do some things in his room. We're like reorganizing his furniture and, kind of purging after Christmas and all the toys and all of that kind of thing that comes with having kids. And while I was away from the computer, it did an automatic update and reset everything in my computer, and I lost the audio files. So I'm re-recording this training. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you is because sometimes that's just how life goes. It doesn't always go as planned. It doesn't always come easy. And so I'm recording this on my lunch hour the Monday before it's supposed to go live. And sometimes in life things are not ideal, but we still move forward. We still continue on doing the things that we know we need to do in order to reach our goals. Now, when I say it's not ideal because it's stressful, right? And when we are not prepared for things, it can put us on stress. And when things are happening at the last minute, it causes a whole different kind of level of stress, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you do. And you guys, this is why weekly prep is so important. Now, what happened to me has to do with the podcast, and it's a whole different process and production schedule that we are moving towards to avoid things like this happening. But when we're talking about everything in life, when we're talking about the goals, when we're talking about our work and being a mom and being a wife and taking care of our health and our finances and our home and all of the things that we're all trying to balance, prep is important. Systems are important to helping us live through what it is that we're called to do and to be successful in the things that we're called to do. And that's the whole purpose of what we're going to be talking about today, is how do we take a few of those hours on the weekend, those precious hours that we have, to prep and really move ourselves forward so that we're not always sabotaging ourselves, so we're not always finding ourselves kind of caught in a tough situation where we're trying to make things work. Now, I mentioned that there were going to be some free resources that would help you go through the things that we're going to be talking about today. And truly, everything that we're going to be talking about today, you can find inside the weekly success planning course, which are found inside the Your Life Rocks mobile app. So if you go to your app store, if you haven't done so already, you can search Your Life Rocks and find our mobile app, download it, and you will have access to that free course inside of the app. Now, if you've done the course, but maybe you haven't done it, I don't know, since you've set your New Year's goals, it's a good time to go back and do a refresher. Now, if you are listening and you are a member of Life Balance Membership, that's inside the app, and we also have a membership community and a resource hub outside of the membership. And so if you're listening to this and you are a Life Balance member, make sure you go to the community group, because I linked to some extra documents for you there to help as a refresher to walk you through this goal setting process, to really help you up-level your Sunday prep even more. Okay, so to help us go through this in a little bit more of an organized fashion, I want you to think about this in 3 main points, all right? So let's dive into point number 1, which is getting clarity on what you actually want. So oftentimes when we're setting goals, especially for the new year, they can be very general. And we all know from our corporate world, or at least hopefully we do, about setting SMART goals, goals that are more specific, goals that are measurable. So then that way we know when we have achieved success, right? When we can really write out those details and know what those actions are that we need to take in order to get there. But setting clarity around our goals isn't always just about setting that SMART, quote unquote, goal, right? Something that's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. That's kind of what the SMART goal framework stands for. But really even getting clear on what it is that you actually want, what the benefit of doing the hard work in order to get there, what that means for you. And in our free community, we were talking last week about the one word that we would have for the year. If you've ever read the book, The One Word, or you've heard people talking about their word for the new year, that's kind of what we're referring to. And I had shared that there was a Bible study, a 4-day Bible study in the YouVersion Bible app. I highly recommend, if you're picking a word for the new year, that you go and you take that free Bible study. Because as we were talking in the community about picking this one word for your year, oftentimes we can get stuck in this trap of picking a word for ourselves, just like we set goals for ourselves, but we don't necessarily bring God into that conversation. And in order to have true clarity on what it is that we want, we need to be thinking and seeking what He wants for us, or what we want for ourselves through Him. And this is why within the membership, we have a whole Bible study called Setting Goals in God's Will, where I guide you right into the Word to look to see what God says about marriage, about how we should run our home, our finances, our health, so that you can really be setting goals with Him in mind and His pattern in mind for the way that we should be operating in these areas of our life. But setting a word for yourself for the year takes a whole different meaning when you bring God into the fold, where you're able to see what He wants for you, what His word for you is in the new year. And I'll tell you, the word that God gave me for this new year for myself is not a word I would have picked for myself. As I was praying about what my word would be, I was kind of thinking about different words that were coming to mind, and I just didn't really feel like any of those were it. Although I wanted them to be it, I just didn't feel like that's what God was speaking to me. And then when my word finally did come to me that I did feel like came from the Spirit, it made sense and I liked it, but it's just not something I would have picked for myself. But I'll tell you, it's only been, we are on what, day 7 now of the new year. And God has been so faithful in that word already. Just in the way that I feel, the way I think, some of the decisions that I've recently made and how they've unfolded for myself and for my family, that word is definitely evident. And in that, it's just such reassurance that when we trust in God to lead us with our goals, when we trust in God to lead us with our lives, it can be such an amazing experience versus struggling to do it in our own power, our own intellect, and our own will. So as you're getting clarity on what it is that you truly want for yourself, I highly encourage that you seek what God wants for you in this new year, that as you're getting clarity around that goal, that you think, God, what does this look like in your eyes and in your hands? And sometimes we don't need to know all of the details. And so when you're doing that free course, the weekly success planning course, we talk about how you want to feel, because sometimes we can get so focused on the details of what it looks like, which is a great exercise to do. And if you listen to last week's episode, I kind of walked you through doing that and playing it like a movie so you can truly see it. But oftentimes the things that will motivate us to stick to it and kind of just give us that freedom and that openness to see what God would do with it is to think about how you want to feel. And then let the details unfold how they unfold. But really getting clear about how you want to feel when you get to wherever it is that you want to go. Because listen, we're talking about planning, we're talking about preparation in this episode. And if you don't know where you want to go exactly, it's really hard to plan your way to get there. Whenever I do set goals for myself that are not something that I feel like are straight from God, I hold on to them very loosely because God could change that course, change that path, change my heart at any moment. And so as you're setting these goals, just keep in mind that, the course may turn, and that is totally fine. But we do need to have that vision of where it is that we want to go so we can start heading in that direction versus just sitting here spinning our wheels and not going anywhere. Or worse yet, going in a completely different direction that you absolutely for sure do not want to go. So that's number one, is to get clarity on what the goal actually is. Number two is to get clarity on what you need to do to get there. Now, inside the course, we talk about this as a gap analysis. And it's really identifying where it is that you are now versus where it is that you want to go in the future, and then recognizing what is the distance between the two. What are those things that you need to do in order to get to where you want to go? Essentially, this is you making your plan. Now, you're not going to carry out this plan on one Saturday or Sunday when you're doing your prep. And oftentimes, if you're like me, sometimes we set goals that are really big, audacious goals, and it's so fun to do that. But when we're starting to talk about the plan, it can get a little overwhelming. Just remember that things often take longer to get accomplished than we think that they actually will. As you're making this plan, some things don't always go smooth as planned, but that's why we do this prep every single week so that we can look back at the previous week and say, okay, how much traction did I make towards my goal? What actions do I further still need to do? And you can really hone in on what it is that you need to do in that next particular week. So once you have that gap analysis done and you kind of know like, okay, this is all of the actions that I need to do in order to get from point A to point B, step number 3 is to actually do the plan. Now, on last week's episode, we talked about really focusing in on the details, right? Like zooming out big when we're casting that vision and then zooming in small when we're working the plan. And so when you're doing that weekly prep, you want to plan a week ahead of time. Now, if you're doing the Life Balance program, then you know we also look at the month, right? We look at our month standard operating practices and what things we need to do to move us forward. But then we go to our weekly planning where we are pre-planning the week, what actions we need to take and what actions we're going to take that week to close the gap. So remember in step 2, when we talked about getting clarity on that plan and the actions that you need to do to close the gap, this is where you are actually planning those actions in that specific week. Now, friends, you know I love a good to-do list. I am a list maker I just love it. I love making lists. They're everywhere. It's almost like a therapeutic addiction of mine to make a list to help me deal with stress or overwhelm or anything else. But listen, lists are not going to help you get to your goal. A list is a great way for you to brain dump. It's a great way for you to strategize. But if you want to actually do your plan, you need to put that to-do list on your calendar. The actions need to have a specific day and time that you are doing them. And when you're doing your weekly prep, that is when you're assigning it. You're going to take out your calendar and you're going to assign those actions into their own space so that you can actually get it done. You know, oftentimes we fill up our calendar with all of these appointments and things that we're doing, people we're meeting with, places that we're going, and then we have a separate to-do list. But if we don't leave margin and white space on our calendar, which most of us don't, then we have absolutely no time set aside to actually complete the to-do list. And if we're not assigning time to our to-do list, the items on our to-do list onto the calendar, they're not ever going to get done. So you have to actually assign yourself that task to get it done. Because if it's not on your calendar, it just doesn't exist. At the end of the week, you'll come back and you'll look at your list and be like, yep, didn't do any of those things this week. Let's move them on to the next week. And then week after week, it builds, right? And then we start to get discouraged. Are we ever going to be able to reach this goal? And that's where we can feel stuck. And that's where we can start to feel out of balance and that it's not possible to do the things that we feel like we're being called to do. And now if you've done the weekly success plan before, then you know it is all about identifying those obstacles and how you can overcome them. So as you're planning out those actions, there are going to be things that pop up, right? That keep you from the results that you want or doing the things that you want. I mean, this podcast episode right now that I'm recording is a perfect example. I had set aside this lunch hour break to do something else, but instead I'm recording this podcast because things happen, right? Things are always going to happen. We live in a not perfect world. And while we can't perfectly see into the future to know what obstacles are going to come up, we do have a good sense of some obstacles. One of the examples that I use in the course is setting up yourself for your morning routine. So for example, In my morning routine, I like to work out, which means I need to get my workout clothes on. Well, if I'm fumbling around in my bedroom, waking up super early so I can get my workout in before anyone else wakes up, I'm likely going to make a lot of noise and wake up my husband. And then if he wakes up, then, kind of ruins the quiet time, or I'm going to feel really guilty about doing it and then be less likely to do it. But if I can set up my workout gear and everything that I need in one location so I can just grab and dash, then I'm setting myself up for success. I'm seeing what those obstacles might be from keeping me from being successful, and I'm doing something about it proactively. And that is the whole entire point of doing weekly prep, is to look at the week ahead to say, okay, what obstacles are there going to be? I mean, you think about it, even doing your laundry is a proactive step of an obstacle, of having something to wear, right? Of your kids being like, I'm supposed to wear this for the sports picture or whatever, and my jersey's dirty or whatever it might be, right? It's being proactive so that those things don't get in your way. So think about your goals and think about what things are possible to derail me this week from sticking to my goals. One of the most popular goals this time of year is around our health. Maybe it's losing weight or just being healthier. And so look at the week ahead. What obstacles might throw you off from that? Are you going to have a busy day at work where you're not going to have any breaks to eat? And so then, you might get hungry and then not make the best choices. Then that's something you need to be proactive about and to say, okay, what snacks can I bring on the go? What things can I have at the ready so that even though I don't have time to take a break to eat, I can maybe eat in a meeting or identify what those opportunities are for yourself. Maybe you're going to be eating out for a social event happening this week. You can know what restaurant you're going to go to in advance. Maybe look at their website and look at their menu and predetermine what it is that you're going to be ordering so it can fit into whatever plan it is that you're doing so that you're not sabotaging your goals. Be thinking ahead at those different obstacles that would keep you from reaching your goal in the week ahead and see what you can do proactively to accomplish it. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to accomplish everything within that weekend hours that you have set aside for your weekly prep. And if that's the case, that's okay. That's what your calendar's for. You can assign, looking at the menu for that restaurant on the lunch hour the day before, right? Whatever that looks like for you, but you can assign those actions again to your calendar so that it does still get done. Now, here's one extra piece I did want to throw in, and it is really watching your mindset, because when you start to prep and you start to think about these obstacles, or even in the midst of your week, as these obstacles start to come up, our mind can play tricks on us. And what happens is oftentimes we start making these justifications or excuses to things, right? And these justifications cause us to perform less than our best, less than our intentions to help us reach our goals. And so you have to be very careful with your mindset, and you have to be very honest with yourself with your mindset, because sometimes we can be our own worst enemy and buy into our justifications and excuses. It's not like we have a personal trainer type of a person, a coach following us around saying, you are lying to yourself. You are sabotaging yourself. You're playing games with this whole goal and what the reality is of what it is you're doing. We don't have someone like that following us around in our lives, and so we need to learn to start doing that for ourselves. So if you find yourself making excuses and not doing the things that you know you need to do in order to reach your goal, just remind yourself that you are the one who set that goal. So if you didn't really want to reach that goal, then why are you wasting that mental space by setting that goal and saying that this is what you want to do if you're not willing to actually do what it's going to take to do it? You maybe need to let that goal go. And this is also why, going back to what I was talking about in the very beginning, aligning your goals with God's word, because when you're in partnership with Him, the Holy Spirit comes into play, and things that seem impossible all of a sudden are now possible. I mean, that's our whole thing here at Your Life Rocks, right? Is that we believe that balance is possible when you put God first. And any goal that you are trying to achieve in your life, when you're bringing God into it and you're letting Him lead the way in that goal, it is going to be so possible for you to do it regardless of anything that comes your way. Nothing can stand against you when you're in alignment with Him. Because remember, if you want something different, you need to do something different. And actually, if you want something different, you need to react in a different way, because sometimes, we have things that happen in our lives that trigger habits. And sometimes those habits are not the habits that are the best, because oftentimes when we have a goal, like say, for example, to pay off debt, it's because we've racked up debt. If we have a goal to lose weight, it's probably because we've gained weight, right? So we have habits that have put us in a bad situation. And so really, when we're talking about doing this weekly prep, and we're talking about removing obstacles, and we're talking about planning, it really is building these new habits. But when stress comes in, when emotions get high, our brains go out the window and we don't always remember our plan, and we start to react differently from our gut. And so we need to start focusing in on the way that we're reacting to stress, to emotions, to outside triggers, all of these things, because that's just life, my friends. It's going to happen. So we need to learn to deal with it in a different way. In our Facebook community for our members, I shared this book that I've been reading that's so good. So good. I am a huge advocate of Audible, listening to books on audio, but sometimes you just need like the paper, right? It's kind of like reading my Bible. I can read my Bible on my phone, and I do that sometimes, but sometimes I just need the paper. I just need to open it up, read, highlight, underline. And there are some books like that, right? That you're just like, this is going to be a really impactful book for me, and I need the actual physical copy that I can really learn from, not just entertain myself with, but really digest in a different way. And I knew that this book was going to be one. I found it actually through Instagram, and I just felt like the Spirit leading me, like, you need to go and buy it. So I did, logged onto Amazon, bought it. I'll share it in the show notes. It's called I Declare War, and it's by Levi Lusko. And it's the 4 keys to winning the battle within yourself. And he really just talks about this exact topic of reacting in a different way and thinking about the way that you talk, thinking about your mind, thinking about your actions, and really not sabotaging yourself, being the best version of yourself, not that version of yourself that you're like, oh, cringe-worthy moments. And we've all been there, right? Where we snap and we're not the wife that we want to be. We snap and we're not the mom we want to be. Or sometimes even our mind is not the Christian that we want to be, right? Or the friend that we want to be. And so if you can relate to that, I highly, highly, highly encourage that you pick up this book. And again, I will link to it in our Facebook community. I will also link to it in our show notes page. It's an excellent, excellent read. I'm not done with it yet. I'm a little more than halfway through with it, but it talks exactly about these things that we're talking about, the things that are holding you back and that mental game. And so if you're finding that you are doing the prep, you're planning the actions, but yet there's something happening in the middle of the week when stress kicks in and you're reacting in a completely different way than what you want to be reacting. You are planning your meals, you're working out, and then you get stressed and you're eating a bunch of crap at work. Well, that's not helping you reach your goal. It's going to create a whole cycle of sabotage. So if that is something that you relate to, then you definitely should check out this book. Okay, so I'm going to review these 3 points, and then I have some extra bonus tips for you. Okay, they're not necessarily about these. It's not like I'm adding more steps to these 3 things, but it's just a little bit more clarity depending on where you are in different situations. So number 1 is to get clarity on what your goal actually is, because getting healthy is not a goal. Losing 15 pounds, that's a more measurable goal. Getting clear on how you want to feel, getting clear on what your word is for the year, what God would have for you in that word, that is clarity. Okay, so that is number 1. Number 2 is clarity on what you need to do to get there, making that plan, closing the gap, knowing what actions, what steps you need to take from point A where you are to point B where you want to be. Make the plan. And then number 3 is to do the plan. Plan 1 week at a time, put the actions on your calendar, and get it done. Watching your mindset, because the mindset will sabotage you if you are not careful. So be mindful of your mindset. Okay, so the tips that I have for you, number 1 is around goals. So I've talked to a few people that are like, I feel like I should have goals, but I just don't even know what I want. Like, I just can't even, like, I hear you. You're talking about clarity around goals. I don't know what I want. I don't know what my goals should be for this year. If that is something that you can definitely relate to, totally fine. Just remember, your goals don't have to be big goals. but we also need to be a people of vision, right? And thinking about how we want to be moving ourselves forward. And so you can think big as far as, what we talked about like last week with casting that vision for your life, making that 5-year plan for yourself, having that kind of a vision is powerful. And then think about small goals. Just think about like, what can I do this week to be the person I want to be? They don't have to be where, I want to put $20,000 into savings or I want to lose 35 pounds. They don't have to be like these big, momentous, lifestyle changing goals, right? Your goal could be, I want to play more with my kids this week by 30 minutes or, something like that. It doesn't have to be big. I don't want the whole goal thing to discourage you, but it is very important to have a clear vision for your life. And if you're struggling with that and really identifying what that vision looks like in a healthy way, we do have a new program that's coming up. It starts January 20th. It's called the Life Balance Academy. And that's one of the very first steps that we're going to be doing is talking about that life vision and really vision casting for what you want your life to be and breaking that out into the next 5 years, the next 1 year, the next 90 days, so that you can really start moving yourself in that direction versus feeling like you're stuck or stagnant or not going where you want to go. And you can learn more about that by going to yourliferocks.com, or you can send me an email, jenny@yourliferocks.com, and I'd be happy to tell you more about it. Now, if you do have those clear goals in your head, but you're just like, when I'm thinking about the actions, I just don't know what it is that I need to do to get there. If you do the guide inside the weekly success planning course and you're still feeling that way, like, I just don't know. Jenny, I don't know what to do. Maybe you need to get some outside help. For example, if your goals are financial and you feel stuck and you just don't know how to make a budget, some things we need to learn, right? So maybe you need to get some software or take a course or reach out to a professional to help you. And the same thing goes for your marriage, being a mom, your career, your health goals, you name it. If you can't get organized in your house, there are people out there that are professional organizers. They can help you. And this is the beautiful thing about the body of Christ, is that we all have these different gifts and talents. So just like you have gift and talent that someone else is wishing that they need desperately in their life, they have gifts and talents that you need desperately in your life. Some people love to clean a house. Some people hate cleaning. Some people love cooking. Some people don't like cooking. Some people are really great with numbers and budgeting and finances, and some people can't balance their checkbook. So find those people. And if you're looking for recommendations, I know a lot of those people because I've probably had them on my show. So reach out to me. I'd be happy to make some recommendations. But get help, because there's nothing more frustrating than trying to figure it out on your own and just not able to get there. We are not meant to do everything ourselves. We can direct it and we can plan it, but that doesn't mean you have to do everything yourselves. When we talk about the 8 areas of life, one of the things we talk about is your home. And oftentimes as working moms, I know for me, the longest time, I never saw myself as a homemaker. Yet, you know what? I am making a home for my family. So even if I'm not the one cleaning the toilets, I'm still the one who's hiring the person who's cleaning my bathrooms for me every few weeks, or I'm ordering the groceries that someone else is delivering. I'm still orchestrating it all intentionally to build the home that I want for my family. I'm still orchestrating the actions that I'm doing in my career to get to where I want to go in the long run. I'm still intentional about showing up as the wife that I want to be, even in the hard years of marriage. Even though things aren't perfect, even, all those things, it's just about being intentional about it, thinking ahead of what you want it to be and doing the actions necessary, even if that means hiring someone to help you do it. There's no shame in that. Now, and if you need help putting all of this together and you're thinking, oh my gosh, Jenny, like this just so overwhelms me. Number one, if you're a Life Balance member, post in the group and tag me and I'd be more than happy to help you there. Helping to walk our members through this kind of stuff is exactly what Life Balance membership is all about. In addition to the courses and all the resources and everything else, that community group, I designed it exactly for that reason so that you and I can connect in that way. Now, if you're looking for that next level help, then that is exactly what the Life Balance Academy, starting on January 20th, is all about. So not only are you going to learn the principles of the life balance system. Remember, when we talk about creating balance in your life, there's the 3 principles. Number 1 is putting God first. Number 2 is being in community. And number 3 are finding the systems that work for you. I will teach you all about the life balance system, but then also help you customize it to your own unique situation, because we all have different stages that we're at with our kids, different stages in our marriage, different stages in our career and what it is that we're doing, and it looks very differently for all of us. And so we can teach you how to customize that life balance system to exactly your unique situation. Now, in addition to that, in the Academy, we are going to have those experts. So you'll be able to learn each week from a different expert in your marriage, in parenting, career, health, home, finances, and we have an expert even coming in talking about how you can cultivate great friendships in your life and have a whole lot more fun. Now, in addition to the live training, you'll also be able to ask questions to all of the experts. And I'm going to be sending everyone who signs up for the Academy a life balance planner so you can really be living it out, taking actions that are going to get you real results. So if that's something that interests you, I hope that you sign up, because we do have a limited number of spots available for the group that starts on the 20th. Again, go to yourliferocks.com for more information. You guys, I just pray that regardless whatever your goals are for this year, whatever expectations you're putting on 2019, whatever intentions you're setting for 2019, I would just pray that God would bless you, He would bless your family, that He would show up for you in mighty and amazing ways as you progress throughout this year. I pray that He would just draw you in. And ultimately, that is the number one goal, right? Is to grow closer to Jesus so you can more clearly hear the voice of the Spirit, so that you can be guiding your steps in everything that you do. Be more like Christ each and every single day. I pray all of these things over everyone who's listening to my voice right now. In Jesus' name, amen. You guys, thank you so much again for hanging out with me today. There are a lot of exciting things happening in 2019 here at Your Life Rocks, and for me personally. So I'm super excited to be sharing more of that journey with you, either in our Facebook community or over on Instagram. You can check out my Insta stories. We have a lot of fun things planned for Insta stories in the coming weeks as well, and some great giveaways. So if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure that you do, because we have a lot of giveaways, including one of the Life Balance Academy programs. So if you're not yet following me, head on over to Instagram, your.life.rocks. Those dots are important. There are two Your Life Rocks on Instagram. One is me and one is somebody else. So I hope that the rest of your week is absolutely amazing. And until next week, keep building a life that rocks. Bye.